All right, ladies and gentlemen, it is your favorite dark sorcerer here. And today I want to kind of do a reply to my haters. I guess you can call them, those that duel with both hands. So, for 10 years, I have built a reputation for myself as a educator. Yeah, I've had my own fair share of haters, just like many of you. But when you take an oath, when you take an oath as a minister, this sets you apart from the rest of the community. Okay. Now, we all know what went down with Balg over the last year. Now, let's call it the last couple of years, really. It's been a slow strangulation, so to speak, on that one. But we also know that there's been a lot of drama in the occult community. So, I thought I would take a moment and kind of do a quick rundown. The common folk, just your average Joe or Jane, you have the right to go out and do whatever the fuck you want to do. Okay? This means you can go out and say, oh, so and so said this or so and so said that. You can speak your mind. Okay? But when you're an ordained minister, a clergyman, it is basically the same thing as being an attorney or a medical physician. Okay. It comes down to client patient, the patient doctor oath of silence. It's the exact same thing with being a minister. Okay. And I've discussed how you can become a minister in a couple of different ways. One, you can either go and spend thousands of dollars at a religious foundation, or you can go to some of these scam type places and go, okay, I got a piece of paper that says I'm a minister. Okay. Or number three, you can go to a minister and learn from them because there are two true ways to become an ordained minister. Number one, like I said, going to a religious foundation. Number two, most ministers today, especially in the JCI, the Judo Christian institutions, have come from being trained by other ministers. Okay? Doesn't matter what denomination, it is that way. Okay? Even in the left hand path, traditions, you have people coming out left and right out of the woodworks with papers going, I'm finally an ordained minister. Okay, cool. How did you get it? Okay, where did you go? All right, you know what I'm saying? Because there's two organizations that will actually help you to become a minister. One is the Universal Life Monastery, which is kind of like a UDU type church, you know. And then you have the only ministry in the United States that is associated with the U.S. government. Yeah, I got a hair in my mouth. So, anyways, um, and that is the American Fellowship. Okay, and this is actually the only recognized ministry. Okay, throughout from the U.S. government. This is where I ended up getting my minister's license from. Okay, so as an ordained minister, whatever you tell me, I cannot spill the beans. Okay, so you've got a bunch of people that have suddenly just started coming out of the woodwork now that their worlds are imploding and you got all this drama in the community. People are barely on social media these days, especially Facebook, especially what fuckers are, Fuckerberg is doing. And yes, you heard me right. I called him Fuckerberg because he's a pretty boy that's spoiled rotten with his little fucking bank account. Okay. He's no different from one of these mega church pastors preaching against getting the vaccine. Okay. Oh, look. One of them actually recently died from that, by the way. Hilarious. Another one's getting ready to be brought up on drug charges or fraud charges, I should say. But the point is, there's a difference between somebody like me and you, the commoners. Why? Because I have to hold myself in high esteem. I have to keep my mouth shut upon certain topics because it comes down to you told me this in confidence. It falls underneath the clergy oath. Okay. Now, some of these haters, I will tell you this, and I'm able to say this because this is no big secret, is some of these haters who, like I said, you help them out and they stab you in the back, okay, with the other hand. And it's kind of funny because when you spend time giving somebody ammunition, so to speak, and I'm saying this not the actual bullet. I'm talking the ammunition of information, say, towards somebody else. Like say we have a common enemy. Okay. So you come to me and okay, I'll give you this. This is my dealings with them. This is people who have come to me about this individual and this is your stuff. Because this is stuff that's been all over social media. People have just forgotten about it. Okay. So here we are, fast forwarding, and now you're attacking me. You know what I'm saying? My world hasn't imploded. My world is still here. My organization is still here and strong because it's built off facts. It's based off education. It is based off multiple sources of information. Okay. For an example, I just gave you two key organizations right here in the United States that will help you become an ordained minister. Okay. But here's the thing, does that alliance, so to speak, when you turn around, bite the hand that feeds you, does that separate that oath? The answer is no. And this is why. The US co- penal code states that if it is not life and death, you must remain silent. You must remain silent. So, no matter what you say, I cannot use that again. I cannot put that out there on like say a live video like I'm doing. Okay, I can't just come out and go, well, you told me this, and this, and now you're going against it, or you know, this happened or that happened, and your world is gone. You know what I'm saying? I can't come out and do that. That's the difference between somebody who is considered a priest or priestess within left hand path practices. It doesn't matter if you're considered a reverend, it doesn't matter if you're considered a magistrate, a black pope, or even a priest, priestess, Bokor, Hungan, Mambo, Marimberos, Polero, Brua, Bruo, witch, warlock. It does not matter because That's the difference between somebody who is not in the ministry, and the ministry, and that of somebody who is. Okay. But I do find it interesting as of late that there has been a lot of negativity being directed towards comments. And I find it interesting because I'm biting my lip because if you and I talk again on, say, for example, Messenger, I'm gonna blast your ass into the next fucking universe or into oblivion, depending on what my mood is by that time. But what I can tell you is that outside of that, it's not my place to speak on. I was talking with a lady just last night, a sister, and she brought up some interesting views. And one of them is, you're not concerned with your image? People attacking your image? I said, no. You're not concerned with somebody trying to spoof you through fake emails or, whatever? The answer is no. It's got nothing to do with me. You see, some people lash out of anger, frustration, rage. It's not a matter of who they lash out at. It's more or less they're at that degree of emotional degradation, where the individual is utilizing raw emotion. This is why they lash out at everybody. It does not matter who. But if somebody specifically singles you out, that's another whole story. If they single you out and they specifically come at you repeatedly. For an example, I did one video last year against an enemy and I shared everything. Okay, I read off all the emails. I shared, all the things that were given to me from people who didn't want to come forth. I read down through them, the whole king caboodle, and I even did my own experience with a certain individual. Okay, that was just one video because it had nothing to do with the ministry side of things. It was just somebody trying to make a name for themselves. It was just somebody trying to lash out to make themselves look good. Okay. But there's a difference between somebody who's trying to make themselves look good and somebody just lashing out saying, oh, you don't know this, you don't know that, whatever. Okay. This is something that you will get as you advance in your careers as magicians, as sorcerers, either as necromancers, witches, warlocks, Satanists. It does not matter what path you're on. You're going to find these individuals on there. Okay. Like I said before, my house is strong. Okay. It's built on rock, not upon sand. Anton Zandalevay, out of his 21 satanic points, said, build not upon sand, but upon rock. Build not for today or yesterday, but for all time. A short rest is better than a long. Okay. But he also said, he who stands atop of the tallest pyramid of skulls sees the furthest. Well, I can't really speak to standing on the top of a giant pyramid of skulls. Okay. Although that would be cool to actually do that and have a throne right up on there. But my point is this: you have people lashing out because they're either bored or they're seeking attention, they're seeking money, or they're just lashing out in raw emotion. Either way, treat them as children. Not everybody deserves a curse. And I want to give you a little piece of advice here because most people, most practitioners today, you will notice that they are more like a tiger, okay? Not a dragon. They are a tiger. Tigers only know their brute strength. They only know what they can do. Whereas a dragon uses wisdom, knowledge, but also has the power to back it up. So after my better half got called into work today, and she's actually on her way home now because she had to take a client down to the southern half of the state this afternoon for her boss. And my son is now out at Mimi's house. I figured, what the hell, I will do a video on this. So I went in, I lit the candles, I lit the incense, I called upon the spirits that I work with, and I laid everything on the altar. Now, I had this minister friend of mine said, whatever issues you have, put it on the altar. It took me a while to understand what that meant. Okay. It means put it on the altar and let the spirits guide you. Okay. So after I did that, I sat there for about an hour and let the tea leaf candles burn out, a little over an hour. It normally takes about an hour, hour and a half, maybe 2 hours for the candles to actually, the tea leaf candles to actually go out. But it was interesting because of the fact that I just laid everything out and said, why would this individual do this? Especially after, what I've done for him. Why would this individual do this? Because of what I helped them accomplish. You know what I'm saying? And I was remembering the conversation I had with a sister last night. So when I came out of my altar room, I picked up the book of Shinto, Bushido, the mastering the Stoic way of life, meditations, war and peace, and the art of war. And what I came down with from all of this is this little saying, and it's on page 79 in the Book of Meditations by Marcus Aurelius. Whatsoever is was made for something, as a horse a vine. Why? Wonderest thou? The sun itself will say itself, I was made for something, and so hath every god its proper function. What then were then made for? To disport the delight thyself. See how even common sense and reason cannot brook it. Say what you will about second century authors, but still, that was XVII. Now, XV 3, nature hath its end, as well in the end in final consummation of anything that is, as in the begin 9, and continuation of it. This is actually something that was very, very interesting. Page 73, XXXVI. Take heed lest any time thou stand so affected, though towards. And you know what? It's interesting. I have to give it to the Japanese. You know, the way of Bushido is a code of honor. You're ready for death, you're prepared to death, therefore, give the fight your all. You know what I'm saying? Shinto is not just a warrior path, but it is also a religious path where you work with spirits. And Stoic, well, this was integrated in, intermingled, I should say, within the political aspects of the military and elevated stature of life. So you take this with the political aspects of War and Peace by Leo Tolstoy. I do recommend that, by the way. It is one hell of a good book. Russian classic, if you ask me. And that of Marcus Aurelius, who was a second century philosopher. He wasn't just a lord of his own kingdom, his own domain, compound, or whatever you want to call it. But he was a man that was well versed in political affairs. He was a man that was well um, put forth within the way of life. To him, it did not matter who rose to power and who didn't. He was ready to serve both. And it was interesting because when I look back at my own career as a black magician, a sorcerer, a warlock, when I was young, I used to just fly off. Somebody attacked me, I'd drag their name through the fucking mud, you know? And then I realized people were actually looking to me as an elder. They viewed me as somebody that was a human encyclopedia, if you wish, because I had this vast amount of knowledge that I've collected over 30 years, the 3 decades. And then I ended up, getting into necromancy and everything just changed after that. And it was like, now I understand what it means to be an elder, what it truly means to be a religious zealot, if you wish, because I spend most of my time studying to better myself. I spend most of my time in my ritual room performing rituals. I don't just take care of my family or deal with my clients, okay? Responsibility is to the responsible, and that was Anton Zandalove. You can't go around cursing people just because somebody left a negative notion on one of your posts or numerous posts, or they could be out there, just stabbing you in the proverbial back, from, just saying this and that about you. Who gives a shit? It says more about them than it does about you, because you got to look at your foundation. Is it built on rock? Is it built for all time? What kind of image do you want to put forth? Okay. It does not matter how many haters you get. It comes down to the facts and the image that you want to put forth. Okay. You look at some of these big timers, okay, that have gone out there and risen to fame and just their worlds just blew up in their faces. How did they get there? They started out good with their works, and then they became lazy. They became slack in their studies, their self-empowerment, and their videos became more about who's better. They're this closed little circle of butt buddies, if you wish. And it was more about, how should I say this? It became more about bullshitting and going off the deep end with these experiments and everything in between. It stopped being about the arts, it stopped being about the mission that you put forth. This is why their houses fell. They built upon sand, not upon rock. It started with two, built into a small empire. One little article destroyed their worlds. Okay? So with you, the lesson here, the lesson here for you, ladies and gentlemen, is I want you to think about where you're building. What kind of image do you want to put forth? What is your goal? Is this a path or a route working that you are going to make a lifelong mission to master? Are you going to get into other traditions and master those traditions as well? You see, it's not about who's right or who's wrong. It's about actual facts. It's about actual proof. That's why you should go by two. And I'm going to say that I'm going to put this right out there. I have lived my life by two rules. Number one, whatever you preach, always back it up. I back up my shit tenfold with numerous sources. And two, always make yourself available to the public because you are responsible, especially as a clergyman or woman, a priest or priestess. You are responsible to answer to the public. You see, the public don't answer to you. You answer to the public, especially if you're a clergy. Have you not learned that even the Shem priests of ancient Egypt were run out of town after performing rituals that the public sought them out for? Or how about the assassinations that the Hashishin did as holy men and monks who were highly trained in combat? Did because they were needed at that time. What about the Knights of Templar? The Knights of Templar, they weren't just religious zealots, protectors of the people. They had the respect of the people, but they worked for the Vatican and eventually they were fucked over by the Vatican because they got too rich and powerful. And they went into shifting gears and they ended up going into political bullshit. It's the name of the game. That's why all the ministers, the priests and priestesses, report to the people. We're here for you, not the other way around, especially if you're an educator. You are responsible for the things that you say, the things that you do, and the content that you put out. Your image is what you make of it. Okay? But you got to think for the long haul. The path of the magical practitioner is one of lifetimes that you need to master. Even the black book of Satan says that I will send my followers back a second and third time, or as many times as necessary for them to learn what I want them to learn. Hmm, interesting how that works, isn't it? How many times are you going to trip over your own feet before you begin to learn from your past mistakes? See, that's the question you need to ask. But as for my haters, well, keep on hating. It's no skin off my nose. It just says more about you. I want to thank Gabriel Fisher for joining me here today. He said greetings on here as soon as he jumped on here. And for the rest of you, thanks for jumping on here with me. All right. Have a good day.